Hey folks, Zach Osterman here, Insider Indianapolis Star, your insider video for Wisconsin 91, Indiana 79. Obviously, Mike Niziolek up in Madison, as we discussed on the podcast last night, and I think on the Friday rundown today as well. He drew the straw for the trip up to the Wisconsin Capitol, but I watched the game from home. Just another, frankly, pretty ugly night for Indiana. The Hoosiers, if this is your cup of tea, I suppose, the Hoosiers did cover. They kind of made a furious, I don't want to say furious, but a late run, kind of last 4 or 5 minutes, hit some threes. Wisconsin's largest lead was 23. Wisconsin led by 23 points with 12:07 left in the second half. So, you kind of see where the Wisconsin wave crested and Indiana kind of pushed back in spurts, kind of late, but obviously not nearly enough. No kel'el tonight. He had the lower leg injury that we only kind of learned about when he popped up on the availability report pregame. Malik Reneau did have 28 points, 8 rebounds, 12 of 21 from the floor. Mackenzie Mbako had another 17, a decent night from him. He was in some foul trouble, but still hit a couple threes, made all 7 of his free throws. But just a really difficult night, frankly, for Indiana defensively. If we're going to talk X's and O's, we'll talk about that first and then, maybe the other thing. But Indiana allowed 39 points in the first half, 52 points in the second. They got Wisconsin to play maybe at more of a pace that Wisconsin doesn't always love, although Wisconsin can play fast. They can score in big numbers and in bunches when they want to. And Indiana actually outscored Wisconsin 53-52 in the second half, but Indiana allowed 52 points in the second half. And so it's kind of one of those things where if you're Indiana, you needed to find a way to sort of join that up of playing better defensively, even without Ware, while being a lot more efficient offensively. If you look at Indiana's second half box specifically, I've got it up here on the monitor above. Indiana scored 1.61 points per possession in the second half. They were 5 of 9 from 3, 18 of 27 overall from the floor. They were 12 of 15 at the free throw line. The problem was, if you go over to Wisconsin was still 1.58 points per possession in the second half, and 16 of 24 from the floor and 6 of 10 from 3. And so the point was that Indiana basically, in being so good offensively, they sacrificed far too much defensively to really make it a game. There were a couple moments when they threatened to, but I think probably ultimately the takeaway from this game for Indiana is going to be more intangible. And a lot of people are going to talk about the CJ Gunn ejection, the flagrant foul. Max Klesmik kind of seems to, if you look at the replay in slow motion, seems to sort of nudge Gunn with his head. Gunn responds by sort of just chicken winging his elbow out. It's one of those where I think, any official is going to tell you if that's on camera, if there's such a clear view of that, there's just really no choice I think the official has. Ultimately, I really don't think that moment, though, was, necessarily any more or less reflective of what went wrong for Indiana on Friday night than a number of other moments. I said this in 3 reasons, our quick thing that we post right after the game. It was like Wisconsin runs counted for double. Like you could just see Indiana's sort of belief in it, in its offense, in its personnel, its connectedness, its togetherness. All that stuff just kind of disappeared. Anytime Wisconsin made a couple tough shots or went on a 9-0 run. I think at one point Wisconsin was on a 21-6 run in the first half. You'd have quick shots offensively, bad shots, long twos. You'd have guys who were passing up what looked like good shots and putting themselves in worse positions and then making bad decisions with the ball. Indiana actually only finished with 10 turnovers, but I think 4 or 5 of those came in the first half and in a stretch of the first half where at first Indiana probably could have given itself more breathing room. And then when Indiana started to struggle offensively, started to maybe force some things, make some mistakes, that sort of fed Wisconsin's confidence because Wisconsin is one of the most efficient offensive teams in the country. And again, if you let them, they'll score at this pace. They're not a team that's necessarily, they're really low on tempo, in terms of their national ranking. But that doesn't mean that if the game picks up and they get the open looks that they know they can hit, they won't make them. They're happy to they're happy to take good shots if you give them good shots, no matter where it is in the clock. And it just kind of, the number of times Indiana, followed a couple of tough Wisconsin baskets with a bad foul or a bad shot, or, obviously the CJ Gunn, whatever led to that, the frustration behind that, obviously. It was it felt like, of a team that we said after that Purdue game really needed to do some soul searching and really needed to kind of, find a way to pull itself together, to get closer, to get tighter, to not allow, games to kind of, pull this team apart. And obviously it's on the road. It's Wisconsin. Of course, it's been done to death how difficult of a place it is for Indiana to play. The Kohl Center, they've now not won there in, I think, 20 straight tries. 1998 was the last year they won in Madison. But the point is, you still have to show, sort of a baseline level of togetherness and toughness and grit and fight. And, when it mattered, Indiana, I mean, they should be commended, I think, for, not just sort of fading quietly into the backdrop in the way that they finished maybe those last 6-7 minutes of the second half. But the flip side is, I think, any coach would say it's easier to hit shots, even tougher shots, contested shots. It's easier to play a little looser when Wisconsin's maybe gone to its bench. And, obviously the pressure's really off because you're down by 15, 17, 18 points. So you don't feel that that pressure of this shot's got to go in. And it's just kind of a second straight game now where whatever the final score, I think, you feel like in the moments when the game is really in the balance, Indiana shrinks from it. And there's just kind of a disconcerting but noticeable feeling that Indiana just kind of surrenders to the pressure of the moment and the situation. And that's really difficult, to be in that place on January 19th is dangerous. It's concerning, frankly. And it's going to take, Mike Woodson's best at this point to kind of pull this team together because, as they talked about many times on the broadcast, Brandon Gaudin and Robbie Hummel, Indiana needs wins, and they need them fast. They have precious few quality wins. No quad win. I think only 2 quad 2. They got to find some quality in their schedule, and they got to do it soon. Obviously, it didn't happen Friday night. Again, Wisconsin 91, Indiana 79. Hoosiers are now 12-7. They're back to 500 in the conference, 4-4. They've got a week and a day off now. They're at Illinois next Saturday. So this is one of 2 week-long sort of buys they have built into their conference schedule, and it's one that they'll have to make the absolute most of because, obviously this level of performance just is going to get Indiana a pretty, an express lane toward an early end of the season. So we'll leave it there for now. Thanks so much for watching. For the Indianapolis Star, I'm Zach Osterman. We will talk to you soon.